music or noise. The sound to which our ears respond might be classified as either music or noise.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 28 of Low Limit Football on Low Limit Poker Radio. I am your host, Joe Usello, and flying solo this evening after a 2-week hiatus. Had a little something going on last Monday night and couldn't be here, and Ben couldn't make it either. So Ben was going to be with me tonight, but something came up last minute. Not going to be able to make it tonight, but that's okay. What we're going to do is we're going to do kind of a little bit of an abbreviated show, but we're going to get back on track with our World Cup presentations or our World Cup section of the program. Going to talk a little bit about Man United in the SirBob ManCity corner. I saw that he was in the chat momentarily. We're going to preview really quick the Champions League. We'll make a prediction on that, and we'll talk about the Europa match from earlier last week, and kind of just recap the scores and the tables probably for the last time this season. We're going to save the review, the season review. We're going to save that section until next week when Ben comes back. Next week we will be having a Memorial Day show, and kind of fittingly on Memorial Day, which is an American holiday, we are going to preview the United States. What we're going to do is we were doing 2 previews per week of our World Cup teams, but we wanted to get them all in before June 9th, and Ben and I have missed enough shows that we have to start squeezing in. So tonight we are actually going by group instead. So tonight we were originally going to talk about Bosnia and Nigeria quickly, but we are going to throw in Argentina and Iran and cover Group F completely tonight. Next week we will talk about Group G, which will be the United States, Ghana, Portugal, and Germany. And we'll be closing it out on June 2nd, which will be our Group H preview, Belgium, Algeria, Russia, and South Korea. Then on June 9th, which will be 3 days before the World Cup opens, Ben and I will give you a full preview, predictions. We'll try to get through a table and see if we can come up with a winner. We'll probably do a World Cup only show on June 9th. So very excited to be getting into that. So I know we've skipped 2 weeks of scores. I'm not going to bother giving you the scores from 2 weeks ago unless it's from a league that played their last week 2 weeks ago. Otherwise, I'm just giving you the last week. As we stand right now, all leagues in Europe are closed. Seasons are over. We have champions in all 5 leagues. And I'll mention them briefly and quickly, but at the same time, not going to recap each individual league until Ben gets back next week. So let's head over to Spain, where we normally start off. And these are matches going from Friday, May 16th, and going in through Sunday, May 18th, which was just yesterday. So starting off on Friday, Malaga 1-0 over Levante. Saturday was Real Madrid 3-1 over Espanyol. Barcelona and Atletico Madrid to a 1-1 draw at the Camp Nou. We'll talk about that one briefly in a moment. Valencia 2-1 over Celta Vigo. And then on Sunday, Villarreal on the road beating Real Sociedad 2-1. Almeria and Athletic Bilbao with a 0-0 draw. Granada 1-0 over Valladolid. Osasuna 2-1 over Betis. Rayo Vallecano losing at home 2-1 to Getafe. And in the last match of the Spanish season, Sevilla 3-1 over Elche. So let's hit that Barcelona-Atletico Madrid match, as that was a match for the championship or for La Liga title. Again, 1-1 draw. Atletico only needing a draw to move through and win the title, win La Liga. And they do come up with that. In the first goal of the match was scored by Alexis Sanchez in the 33rd minute, bringing the home side up 1-0 at the Camp Nou. But Diego Godin, just after halftime, scoring to level it at 1-1. Couple of other interesting facts in this one. Diego Costa, out of this match, he re-injures his hamstring, which we'll talk about in a moment, but was pulled off of this. Out of this match. Arda Turan also suffering an injury coming out in the 23rd minute, really limiting Diego Simeone a little bit. But you know, as we've seen all season, this Atletico team is really scrappy. Get into a dogfight. Kind of, you'd expect it with a manager that they have, that they would be able to kind of man up and take care of this one. So they do go on and win the match, like we had said. Player of the match or man of the match was Koke. And just looking at the statistics in this match, we had shots 12-11 in favor of Atletico, shots on target 4-3 in favor of Barca, and Barca held 64% of the possession on this one. So typical score line that you would expect there in terms of possession, shots, and that sort of thing. Especially if Diego Costa had completed this game, you would have expected that the shots to be reasonably even, although they weren't. But again, you know, 64% of the possession, Barca doing what they normally do, but in the end, really not able to pull off the home win, and Atletico is your La Liga champion. So going back into the standings, again, Atletico Madrid winning the season, 38 matches, of course, for everybody here, 90 points. Second place, Barcelona, 87 points, taking second place by 1 goal. They scored 100 goals on the season. They had a plus 67, and they were 1 goal ahead of Real Madrid, who scored actually 104 goals on the season, but Real Madrid at 87 points. Those are your three Champions League positions. Athletic Bilbao in 4th place in the Champions League qualifier on 70 points. Sevilla on 63 points. Villarreal on 59 points. Both teams into the Europa League as well. Real Sociedad outside the box at 59 points as well, but losing out on the position on goal differential. I have to see if the Copa del Rey champion, which was Real Madrid, affects this at all, because as we'll see in Italy, created a spot which I was unaware of. So I don't, as far as I know, this is accurate, and actually I can check that right now. If I go over to the Serie A table, they do not list Parma as a Europa League qualifier, but we all know Parma did qualify for the Europa. So I'll have to do a little more homework on it, but my assumption is that because Real Madrid won the Copa del Rey and they take up that automatic Champions League position, I believe Bilbao automatically slides in there, and then Sociedad would make the Europa League. So I will have to verify that to be certain. So we'll come back next week and talk about that. Again, behind Sociedad, Valencia and Celta Vigo both on 49 points, and Levante on 48. Going to move right through come up from the bottom of the table, because that's your top 10. Coming up from the bottom, 3 teams that are relegated. Real Betis, 25 points. Valladolid, 36 points. Those were known before we skipped our week. The last one, Osasuna, is the last relegated team despite winning their last match of the season on 39 points. Almeria in 17th on 40. Elche in 16th on 40 points. Granada on 41. Espanyol moving up the table on 42. Getafe on 42 points. Rayo Vallecano on 43, and Malaga in 11th place on 45 points, bringing up the bottom of the table. So that will close out La Liga. And again, Ben and I will do the year in review next week on all the different leagues, and kind of recap that. And I'm sure Ben is very excited to talk about La Liga, as he covered it all season for us and covered it very, very well. So moving on, let's head to Ligue 1, who when we last left, there was still question of PSG winning Ligue 1 because they just didn't seem to be able to close it out, but apparently they have. They did win it that weekend due to a Monaco draw, if I remember correctly. But these are the scores from Saturday, May 17th. We'll start off with Toulouse winning 3-1 at home to Valenciennes. Sochaux losing at home to Evian, and we'll talk about that match quickly in a moment. Saint-Étienne 3-1 over Ajaccio. Stade Rennes 3-1 over Reims. PSG 4-0 over Montpellier. Lyon on the road 1-0 over Nice. Monaco and Bordeaux with a 1-1 draw. Marseille 1-0 over Guingamp. Lille with a goal explosion for them, 4-1 over Lorient. And Bastia and Nantes closing out the season 0-0 at Bastia. So let's go into that Sochaux-Evian matchup, because that was the matchup for last place. It was a matchup that we had previewed, and just looking into my prediction here quickly from 2 weeks ago, I had predicted. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, I don't have this one listed on my show notes. I thought I did predict Evian on this one. However, I'd have to go check my the Facebook feed, which is our Low Limit Football page. But and it looks like SirBob is in the chat, so welcome and thanks for joining me, SirBob. Just got through the Spanish League. We're moving into Ligue 1. What I'm doing tonight is Ben couldn't make it, just to fill you in. Ben couldn't make it. I am going through scores and tables alone on the different leagues, and then next week Ben will be back, and we will be doing a year in review for each league. So we'll kind of dig through and do a little homework. Do a nice year in review next week. We will also next week's show will be year in review for the 5 leagues. It will be the talk about what happened in the Champions League matchup over the weekend. It will be the preview of Group G, which is the group that the United States is in, and we'll do SirBob's ManCity Corner next week. So just to fill you in for next week. Getting back to Ligue 1. After we went through the scores, we're talking about the Evian-Sochaux match, as this was a relegation match. The loser of this one would be relegated from Ligue 1 for next year. And Evian 3-0. Daniel Was opening the score in the 8th minute, with Aldo Angula in the 42nd adding a second goal. And then Daniel Was again in the 72nd minute, really putting the dagger through the heart of Sochaux and finishing them off for the season. Shots on this one. Total shots. Sochaux basically had their way with the shots, 20-9. Shots on goal, though, 5 on 5. So that was an even statistic. Sochaux hit the woodwork on one shot and held 66% of the possession overall. Again, so this was a pretty big deal. Just being that it was loser goes to Ligue 2 and the winner stays home. So hitting the tables again, PSG as your champion, 89 points on a plus 61 goal differential, losing only 3 matches all season long. Monaco second place, they are on 80 points. Lille in third place in the Champions League qualifier on 71 points. Saint-Étienne in fourth on 69 points. Lyon in fifth on 61. Marseille in sixth on 60 points. Bordeaux in 7th on 53. Lorient, Toulouse, and Bastia 8, 9, and 10 on 49 points each. Coming up from the bottom of the table, Ajaccio and Valenciennes relegated, as we well knew before this. Valenciennes closing it out with 6 straight losses that I can see. Ajaccio on 23 points, Valenciennes on 29 points. Sochaux, as we just talked about earlier, the third relegated team on 40 points. Then coming outside the relegation, we have Nice on 42, along with Guingamp, Montpellier, all on 42 points. Evian, by virtue of their victory, on 44 points. Nantes on 46, as well as Rennes on 46. Reims on 48, and that would be your 11th place team. Again, Bastia on 10th place on 49. So that will wrap up our French League coverage for the year, and again, year in review coming next week. Going to the Bundesliga, again, these guys finished off on May 10th, and I can't remember. Actually, we did not talk about their final scores, so let's hit the final scores quickly. I don't know that we'll really talk about any particular match here, but Mainz 3-2 over Hamburg, Augsburg 2-1 over Eintracht, Bayern Munich 1-0 over Stuttgart, Hertha Berlin losing at home 4-0 to Borussia Dortmund, Schalke 4-1 over Nuremberg, Bayer Leverkusen 2-1 at home over Werder Bremen, Hannover 3-2 over Freiburg, Wolfsburg over Mönchengladbach 3-1, and that is actually a matchup that we talked about. So I'll go into that one. And Hoffenheim 3-1 over Braunschweig. Again, these were from Saturday, May 10th. On the Wolfsburg matchup, Wolfsburg-Mönchengladbach, I had predicted a 1-0 Wolfsburg victory. In this one, obviously, I got the goal. I got the winner correct. I got the margin of victory way off. 3-1 on this one. Kevin De Bruyne in the 30th minute for Wolfsburg, only to be leveled by Christoph Kramer in the 64th minute for Mönchengladbach. And then Ivan Persic in the 68th minute scoring to make it 2-1, and Robin Knock in the 81st sealing the deal and going 3-1. Statistics in this one: shots were 19-13 in favor of Wolfsburg, 10-3 on target for Wolfsburg as well. They hit the woodwork twice and held 55% of the possession. So, as expected, Wolfsburg pulling this one out. I wouldn't say rather comfortably, but as we had anticipated, they would be the victors. They were the better team on the day. So, going into the final league standings for the Bundesliga. Again, 34 matches here, as they only have 18 teams in the top flight. Bayern Munich, 90 points, had won it weeks ago, only 2 losses on the season. Borussia Dortmund, second place, 71 points. Schalke in third place, 64 points. Bayer Leverkusen in the Champions League qualifier place on 61. Wolfsburg in fifth place on 60 points, and Mönchengladbach in Wolfsburg in fifth place, Mönchengladbach in sixth place, 55 points. Mainz in seventh place, 53 points. Augsburg on 52 points in eighth place, and Hoffenheim in the top 9 on 44. Coming up from the bottom, Braunschweig is relegated, 25 points. Nuremberg closing out with 6 straight losses, 26 points. Hamburg is in the relegation playoff battle on 27 points. And again, I'd read a statistic somewhere saying that Hamburg is the only team that had never been relegated in the Bundesliga. So going to be interesting to see if they can stay up and stay in the top flight. Stuttgart outside the relegation zone on 32 points. Freiburg, 36 points. Eintracht, 36. Werder Bremen in 12th place on 39 points. Hertha Berlin on 41 points. And in 10th place, closing it out here, is Hanover on 42 points. So that is your Bundesliga for the season. And moving on to Serie A. And these are matches from this past weekend. Udinese 3-3 against Sampdoria. Genoa at home beating Roma 1-0. At that point, Roma had nothing really to play for. There was a little bit to play for, which we'll talk about a little later on here. We'll preview the AC Milan Sassuolo game. Juventus closing out the season with a 3-0 win at home to Cagliari. We're going to talk about them in a moment as well. Catania 2-1 over Atalanta. Lazio 1-0 over Bologna. Napoli 5-1 thrashing of Hellas Verona. Chievo 2-1 over Inter Milan. Parma 2-0 over Livorno. AC Milan 2-1 over Sassuolo. And the last match, Fiorentina drawing Torino 2-2. On that one, Cerci missed penalty, which could have potentially sent them into the Europa League. Just looking at the statistics here quickly, yes, it would have. Cerci missed a penalty was saved in the 94th minute in that match. Otherwise, Torino would be going to the Europa League instead of Parma. So let's go into the AC Milan-Sassuolo matchup, because a lot of people are talking about Clarence Seedorf as this possibly his last match as AC Milan manager. Looking at this one, Suleiman Tari on a spectacular shot in the second minute, taking the lead for Milan. Nigel de Jong adding one at the 27th minute. Really, in this match, AC Milan in total control, and Simon Zaza on a penalty kick on what could have been considered a questionable foul, converting in the 90th minute. Mattia De Siglio was red carded for that one, and Zaza converted. Would have been a much more important goal if Parma didn't win their match, because at that level, if Parma lost with the results that happened, Torino would have gone through, because Milan would have needed one more goal to actually move through and get the Europa spot. So shots in this match, 16-16 for each team, 9-5 in target for Milan, and Milan holding 57% of the possession. This is one I had to listen to on radio. We also had 2 red cards in this one. Philip Mexis in the 68th minute on yellow card accumulation. Paulo Cannavaro with an aggressive straight red in the 86th minute. And then that previous card that we talked about for DeSiglio in the 89th minute that led to the Zaza penalty. So that is the AC Milan-Sassuolo matchup. And because of the results there and the result in Fiorentina and Torino, Parma move on and pick up that last Europa League position. So going into the standings, Juventus, 102 points after 38 matches. Again, only 2 losses. This is one of the highest totals for a team in a European Premier flight ever. And there is an article, I think I have the article tagged, and I can go ahead and take a look at that. There were a couple of teams that had done better than that. I think a team in the Scottish division that did it back-to-back, but other than that, it is a record for the Serie A. Roma, second place, 85 points. Napoli in third place in the Champions League qualifier position, 78 points. Fiorentina, 65 points. Inter on 60 points. And because Fiorentina won the Coppa Italia, there is an open, and I believe actually it was Fiorentina. I could be wrong. I believe it was Napoli that might have won the Coppa Italia. But because of the Coppa Italia victory, an extra Europa position opened up, and that would be occupied by Parma at 58 points. AC Milan and Torino making an effort to get into that spot to their dismay. Both teams finishing on 57th points in 7th and 8th place respectively. Lazio in 9th place on 56 points, and Verona in the top 10, 54 points. Bringing up the bottom of the table, we have Livorno, who was already relegated, closing out with 6 losses, 25 points. Bologna, 29 points. Catania, who I know my brother was praying that they would get in and managed to rescue themselves, on 32 points. Now just outside the relegation zone. Sassuolo, 34 points despite losing this weekend. Chievo, 36 points. Cagliari, 39. Udinese and Genoa on 44 points each. Sampdoria on 45 points. And Atalanta rounding out your bottom 10 at 50 points even. And that will do it for Italy in the Serie A. So now we'll move on to the Premier League. And finally, SirBob will probably wake up from this point. Championship Sunday was May 11th. And again, this is, we're just hitting up the scores and highlights that we hadn't talked about over the past few weeks. So just the scores on Sunday. Cardiff losing at home 2-1 to Chelsea. Fulham 2-2 draw with Crystal Palace. Everton beating Hull 2-0. Liverpool 2-1 over Newcastle. Newcastle suffering 2 red cards in that one. We will definitely talk about that match as we had predicted a Liverpool victory in that one as well. Swansea 3-1 over Sunderland. Man City, your champions, 2-0 over West Ham. Tottenham 3-0 over Aston Villa. Arsenal 2-0 over Norwich. A little too late. We will talk about the FA Cup quickly on that one in a moment. West Brom 2-1 losers to Stoke. And Southampton and Man United, the final draw 1-1. Let's go into that Liverpool matchup. We had predicted a 3-0 Liverpool victory. As Ben would like to say, we got the plus 2.5 right. We got the right victory. We got the right team winning this one as it was 2-1. Newcastle opened the scoring with a Martin Skirtle own goal in the 20th minute. Then Daniel Agger evening the game at 1-1. Daniel Sturridge going up 2-1 and closing out the scoring in the 65th minute. Shola Amobi in the 66th minute picking up 2 yellows in the same time and being sent off for red. And then Paul Dummett in the 87th minute being sent off as well for Newcastle. Statistics in this one: shots 13-8 in favor of Liverpool, on target 5-2 in favor of Liverpool, and they also held 66% of the possession. Pretty much what we'd have expected, soup to nuts on this one. Especially with Newcastle being in a little bit of disarray throughout the past, I'd say, 4 to 6 weeks of the season, and Liverpool really doing everything they can to stay afloat and have a hope of winning the division. Although Man City obviously had other plans. So going into the final statistics here, or the final table listings. Man City, 86 points, your champion, and SirBob's very, very happy about that, I would say. Liverpool, second place, 84 points. Chelsea in third place, 82 points. Arsenal in fourth, closing out with 5 straight wins, as well as Man City did. They are on 79 points. Everton on 72. Tottenham on 69 points in 6th place. Man United on 7th place on 64 points. Southampton in 8th, 56 points. Stoke in 9th on 50 points. And Newcastle rounding out the top 10 on 49 points. Coming up from the bottom, these are your relegation winners, I guess you'd like to say. Cardiff, to the pleasure of every English Premier League fan except for Vincent Tan. 30 points, dead last, going back to the Championship. Fulham being relegated as well, 32 points, and Norwich going down 33 points. Really had a brutal run. They lost 5 of their last 6 matches. The only non-blemish, I would say, would be the Chelsea-Norwich draw 0-0 a couple weeks ago. Then outside the relegation zone, West Brom on 36, Hull on 37, Aston Villa on 38, Sunderland, who maybe 5 weeks ago was dead last, 38 points, 14th place for them. West Ham on 40 points, Swansea in 12th place on 42, and rounding out your bottom 10, Crystal Palace on 45 points, and we will definitely see them again next year. So that is your Premier League. And as I'm sitting here looking through, I will see if I can effort the FA Cup score box for us to talk about that particular matchup that happened this past weekend, which was pretty exciting. I got to actually listen to it on the radio, and here it is: Arsenal winning the FA Cup 3-2, and that's 3-2 in injury time. Hull really came out on fire on this one, countering with a James Chester goal in the 4th minute, followed by a Curtis Davies goal in the 8th minute, and really Hull looked like they might be in control, but then Santi Cazorla with a wonderful strike in the 17th minute to make it 2-1, and they went into the locker room with that scoreline. Coming back out, Lauren Koscielny adding a goal in the 71st minute to make it 2-2, and then sending us into extra time where Aaron Ramsey, who I believe might have been named the player of the match, actually looks to me like Curtis Davies was, according to who scored. But Aaron Ramsey, I think he was the most valuable player for the FA Cup as listed by the fans, scoring in the 109th minute to close this one out and giving Arsenal their first trophy in 9 years. There was that famous website when Arsenal last won a trophy.com or something like that. I believe that website was pulled down within minutes of the FA Cup victory. So that website is no longer able to be found. Shots on this one, Arsenal led the way 26-12. Shots on goal were 7-4 in favor of Arsenal. Each team hit a goal post in this one, and Arsenal held 65% of the possession. Fair play to Hull for really giving it a go in this one. You really thought the way they came out of the gate that they would be able to possibly, get an upset here, but Arsenal obviously just too strong in the end, and it just wasn't meant to be for them. So that is your FA Cup final. Also, the German there was a German Cup as well played this weekend between Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund, and without efforting the score, I believe I believe Bayern Munich did win that one. I can always look that one up quickly here, and find out. Let's see. I think that was that one there. Let me just see. Yes, that's right. That's the DFB Pokal result, which was Bayern Munich 2-0 over Borussia Dortmund. Now that I've got the stats up here, I might as well go through them. Arjen Robben, this one actually went 0-0 all the way, and I did not see this match, so I can't give you full commentary on what might have happened, or I didn't get a chance to listen to it either. But end of regulation time, 0-0 on this one. Arjen Robben adding a goal in the 107th minute, followed by Thomas Müller in the 120th minute to close out this title for Bayern Munich, giving them 2 trophies on the season. Shots on this one even at 15 apiece, but Munich putting 8 of them on goal. Munich hitting the woodwork as well and holding 66% of the possession. Really, good game to Borussia Dortmund, being able to hold Bayern Munich squad 0-0 for virtually 107 minutes really in this one as well. So that is it's good to see that that was a reasonably competitive match there. So. But that will do it for our coverage of the German league, or at least the German Cup final there. So what I'm going to go into now is the preview of the Champions League. Obviously, we have a Madrid derby for us in the Champions League with Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid facing each other in this one. Probably the biggest thing that just came out of this one was Diego Costa, like I had mentioned earlier in the coverage of the La Liga matches. Diego Costa came out of that Barcelona match with a hamstring injury. They're calling it a grade 1 hamstring injury. He has, I believe, officially been ruled out of this match for Atletico. And they're actually starting to question his availability for the World Cup. I don't see that happening if it's a grade 1 hammy. But that's what landed him on the injured list previously. And usually with the hamstring injuries, if you don't heal them up and you don't give them enough time, then you're really going to just re-injure it over and over again. Before I dig into that, one other thing that I wanted to mention, a couple of notes that I forgot to mention about the other leagues. I did go into, I'm sorry, I did not mention these things. In La Liga, these are actually news bits that came down today before we hit the Champions League. In La Liga, Luis Enrique was hired as the new head coach at Barcelona. Tata Martino the other day stepping down. Also listed today, Marc-Andre ter Stegen, Rafinha, and Luis Enrique. Not Luis Enrique. Marc-Andre ter Stegen and Rafinha all coming to Barcelona. Ter Stegen signing a deal, and Rafinha coming back. He was out on loan. He belonged to Barcelona and was being pulled back. So that was a couple of news highlights that came over this morning in La Liga. In Serie A, what came over this morning is Antonio Conte signed a new deal at Juventus, and he's staying put. There was a lot of talk of him possibly going to one of the other sides. Even a candidate rumored for Barcelona, a candidate in many of the English jobs that were open or could be open, considering him for PSG as well. You've heard his name floated around there. Also, some people, very sporadic rumors of him being floated around with Bayern Munich, with Pep Guardiola being on the hot seat a little bit, although nothing's changed there. The rumor mill will start to run rampant when these high-profile positions sort of become available, or at least people start talking about them because they're not meeting expectations. So Conte signing a new deal there. And the other note that came down today, and to the dismay, I would say, of Jeff Davis, who is one of our listeners. We've had him on the show a couple of times. Big Tottenham Hotspur fan. We usually go to him for all our Tottenham news. Louis van Gaal, the head coach of the Dutch team, was named the new head coach at Manchester United. Also part of that announcement was that Ryan Giggs is named as an assistant. He's retired and named as an assistant for Van Gaal. So it's going to be interesting to see how Van Gaal does. There's already been rumors of him wanting to bring over Arjen Robben from Bayern Munich. I've seen that come up already. So we'll have to see how that turns out. But Van Gaal, the new man at Man United, taking over for David Moyes, essentially. So moving back on to our Real Madrid Champions League matchup. Looking at these two teams, just to give you a little bit of history between the two of them. In their last 6 meetings, Real Madrid with 3 wins, Atletico with 2. Most recently was March 2nd, Atletico and Real Madrid drawing 2-2. Prior to that in La Liga, the Copa del Rey, Real Madrid beating Atletico 2-0, and previous to that, they also defeated them 3-0. So Real Madrid really in the last 3 matches has had the upper hand. Atletico winning their September matchup in La Liga 1-0, and that was at the Bernabeu. So Atletico showing that they can at least scrap it out with them, and we know that Atletico is a scrappy team. Looking at their most recent run of form, and these will also include Champions League matchups and other various matchups. Looking at Atletico is 2 wins, 3 draws, and 1 loss. Real Madrid 3 wins, 2 draws, and 1 loss. And we had talked about how these two teams, and you include Barcelona, neither of them really wanted to take charge and win La Liga. They just really not the greatest of form. Now, it could have been that they had other competitions in front of them. Obviously, these two teams were in the Champions League. Barcelona really didn't have much of an excuse on that one, but it's going to be tough to call this one, especially missing Diego Costa. Ronaldo was out with an injury recently, but he's back and seemingly in form. but you wonder how much he's going to be able to give this weekend before the heat of Brazil starts to weigh on his mind. Most of the guys on these teams all going to Brazil. The one glaring sore thumb that sticks out is a guy by the name of Gareth Bale. Bale, obviously a Welshman, so he's not going to the World Cup. So this would be Bale's last match for all intents and purposes for a couple of months until he pick up some type of preseason tournament. I believe they're coming over for the International Challenge of Champions here in the United States, although I'm not positive on the teams. But you can't expect, or you've got to expect Bale to really put it all out on the line. And a guy with his Olympic track speed and his ability to finish with his left foot, you just think that Real Madrid's going to probably have the edge on this one. So I'm going to make a prediction of Real Madrid winning the Champions League with a 2-1 victory over Atletico Madrid. And I'm really giving Atletico the benefit of the doubt by giving them that one goal. If they're not going to have Diego Costa in there, who's their head goal scorer, their leading goal scorer, I just don't see them even barely managing to be able to score a goal. But this is a scrappy Atletico team. They certainly, when you don't think they have enough, they tend to give you another gear and just duke it out with you to really, get there and get the results that they need and prove positive from La Liga this year. So, but I'm still going to give it to Real Madrid with a 2-1 victory in the Champions League final, and that game is going to be played this weekend, May 24th, which is Saturday. I believe in the United States, I believe it's going to be on Fox. So, take a look. That's certainly going to be one heck of a game. So, moving on, let's move over to the Europa League matchup and kind of recap that one. We had Sevilla winning this one. To my surprise, I had predicted this. I had actually predicted previously that the winner of the Benfica-Juventus matchup would be the Europa League champion, as they were the two stronger teams in comparison to Sevilla and Valencia. But we had Benfica losing this one on penalties. So obviously playing dead even all the way through. Scores for Sevilla were Carlos Baca, Stefan Mabia, Koke, and Kevin Gamiro converting their 4 penalties. Lima and Luisao scoring for Benfica, but Oscar Cardozo and Rodrigo missing their penalties, and that would give you the margin of victory 4-2 on penalties. Possession on this one, dead even after 120 minutes, 50-50. Shots on this one, Benfica 20-11 with a 6-4 advantage on target as well. So, unfortunate. They tend to be a little snake bitten, and we'll talk about Benfica next week. They did, just because they lost the Europa matchup doesn't mean that they're a bad team and doesn't mean that they had a bad season. They are your Portuguese league winners, and they've done more than that this season. So. It's unfortunate that they did lose that match, but unfortunately, and we can talk about this sometime during the summer. And I'm sure it'll come up. Is deciding these matches on penalties. It just seems inappropriate to me. Unfortunately, it's just what it feels like. So let's head over to our World Cup preview. And what's nice about our World Cup preview, as opposed to 2 weeks ago when we last visited this section of the program. We have provisional teams already lined up for all the teams going to Brazil. Some of them have named just their 23 with 7 alternates. Some of them have named a 30 and haven't pared them down yet. So let's start out. And again, earlier we were going to do just Bosnia and Nigeria. Let's start out, though, with Argentina. I'm going to take them in alphabetical order as my team listings are in alphabetical order. So going to Argentina. Argentina is one of the favorites to win this tournament at 9-2. I believe they're the second choice behind Brazil from William Hill. Going into their team, and SirBob is here. At the top of the table we go. Hi-ho, Dario. City wins the league. And I didn't... Where were you earlier, SirBob? Because that's actually not going to be the ManCity corner. We did talk about ManCity winning the league, and... SirBob, we will be doing a full year in review next week. Ben will be back, and I'm sure he will have plenty to say about my correct prediction on this one, which was the ManCity victory there. So, getting back into Argentina, 9-2, second choice on the board to win the entire tournament. Obviously these guys are a who's who for the most part. Just scanning over the team that's been named so far. Andujar plays for Catania, although they were relegated, and Sergio Romero is a goalie at Monaco. So you're going to see one of those two guys jump in. You also have Agustin Orion from Boca Juniors as one of the goalies listed, and probably all three will end up going to Argentina. Looking through the defense on this team, led by SirBob's favorite defender in Argentina, Pablo Zabaleta. You also have Ezequiel Garay, who was also on the Benfica team. Just scanning through, Martin Di Michaelis, who is another one of SirBob's favorite. Actually, I kind of doubt that because he really didn't have that great of a season. And Hugo Campagnaro from Inter Milan as defenders. Midfielders for the Argentinian team, Javier Mascherano from Barcelona, Jose Sosa from Atletico Madrid, Ricky Alvarez from Inter Milan, Lucas Biglia from Lazio. Just taking a quick scan through here as well. Maxi Rodriguez from Newell's Old Boys. And then moving on to the forwards, Angel Di Maria, Rodrigo Palacio, Gonzalo Higuain, Sergio Aguero, Ezequiel Lavezzi, Franco Di Santo from Werder Bremen, and that guy named Messi. Off this list, or not included on this list, Carlos Tevez, who was the goal-scoring leader for Juventus, and we talked about them having such a great season. There was talk on Twitter that I saw that Messi and Tevez just don't necessarily see eye to eye, and when that happens, you have to make a decision, and obviously that decision becomes you take Lionel Messi. You always take Lionel Messi over Carlos Tevez. But looking at the firepower on this front line, this is a provisional 30-man roster at the moment for Argentina. Just taking a look at that, who do you leave home? I mean, I think De Santo's the odd man out there, but somebody between Messi, certainly not Messi, never mind that. Somebody between Di Maria, Palacio, Higuain, Aguero, and Lavezzi are going to get left home, I think. I think just scanning this over really quickly, I mean, if I had to pick one name there, it might be Lavezzi, but it also might be Palacio. I think it's going to be one of those two that are going to get left home, and they'll go to Brazil with Messi, Di Maria, Higuain, and Aguero. They may take one of the two, and I think if they have to take one of the two forwards that are going to be left off besides De Santo, I would say they leave Palacio and they take Lavezzi with them. Lavezzi's had a great season at PSG. Really helped out when Ibrahimovic went down with injury. Really kind of bore some of that load along with Cavani from Uruguay. So I think Argentina would probably be happy to go with one of those guys moving forward. So looking at the schedule for Argentina, just quickly, I'm going to scan through. Again, Argentina has made 15 appearances in the World Cup. They've won 2 titles. They're currently ranked 7th in the world. And their matchups and their schedule goes as this. June 15th, which is a Sunday, Argentina plays Bosnia, which is going to be a pretty entertaining game, I would say. Then on the 21st, they faced Iran in Belo Horizonte. The game against Bosnia is at the Maracanã in Rio de Janeiro. And then the last match for them is June 25th against Nigeria at Porto Alegre. So that's going to do it for Argentina, which... again, keep an eye on them because they're certainly one of the major favorites to win this one. Let's move on to Bosnia. Bosnia is 150-1 according to William Hill to go through. Led in goal by Asmir Begovic from Stoke City. Just scanning through their team really quickly. Actually, this looks like a 23-man roster that's been named to go. Mohamed Besic from Fenerbahce. We've got Safic from Leverkusen, and then Kolancic from Schalke are named to the defensive pairings of the squad. Midfield looks pretty decent. Miralem Pjanic from Roma, Harovic from Galatasaray is on that team as well, and Mujda from Freiburg is also in there as well, as long as Senad Lucic from Lazio. So you're looking at a pretty strong midfield. Ibisevic, who's the forward for Stuttgart, Edin Viska from Istanbul, and someone SirBob might be mildly familiar with, in Edin Dzeko, leading the way for forwards. Now, this is a full 23-man roster here. This is the team going to the World Cup to Brazil. Looking at them at their profile, this is the first time that they have gone to the World Cup. They're currently ranked 25th in the world, and their schedule, as we mentioned earlier, facing Argentina to open the group in Rio de Janeiro at the Maracanã. Then they will face on the 21st Nigeria at the Cuiabá at the Arena Pantanal, and I better get used to saying these names. And then closing it out against Iran in Salvador. So and that game is on the 25th. So I think of the teams in this group, I think Argentina is virtually a lock to move through to the next round. I think this match on the 21st between Nigeria and Bosnia is going to go a long way into deciding who is going through to finalize to move through to the next round from these teams. So, going to be interesting to watch that match on the 21st. I think that's going to be the match of the group, to say the least. So, let's head over to Nigeria, and as we're doing that, I will call up the squad. Nigeria listed on the boards at 250-1, according to William Hill, to win the World Cup. Let's get into their team here quickly, if I can just get to them without delaying too long. There's Nigeria. Goalkeepers. Personally, one of my favorite. I named him as the number 2 goalkeeper in the world at the moment. Vincent Enyema from Lille ran a streak of 11 straight matches without giving up a goal. So this guy actually kind of knows what he's doing. Scanning through the team from there, really not a whole heck of a lot to talk about. Joseph Yobo from Norwich City comes to mind here, as well as John Obi Mikel in the midfield from Chelsea. Onazi from Lazio. I'm seeing a few names here now. Joel Obi from Parma, also making the team at the moment. Sunday Mba from Bastia is on this team as well. On the forward listings, we have Peter Amwindije from Stoke City and Victor Moses from Liverpool leading the way for forwards for them. Their strength is really in their goaltending. I don't think we're going to see too much more out of them. Obviously, a guy like Victor Moses is reasonably dangerous. And I'm sorry, also Shola Amobi from Newcastle. I don't know why I skipped over that name, but certainly another name to watch there. So they are going to be pretty decent up top. Just to give you their profile, they have made 4 appearances in the World Cup. They've not won a title. They're currently ranked 44th in the world. And again, they open their matches on the 16th in Curitiba against Iran. Then they go to Cuiabá for that big matchup against Bosnia, and closing it out on the 25th at Porto Alegre against Argentina, which is going to be one heck of a task. But at that point, you might see Argentina's already locked up, having probably beaten Bosnia on that first match, and then probably destroying Iran on the 21st as well. So, also that Iran-Nigeria match is on the 16th, where the other matches were on the 15th. So that will do it for Nigeria. So the last group that we're going to talk about, or the last team that we're going to talk about for the World Cup is, or at least in this group, is Iran. Iran qualifying in this one. Let's just take a look at this is their 3rd appearance. They're currently ranked 37th by FIFA, ahead of Nigeria, which I find quite interesting because the team isn't nearly on paper as strong as the Nigerian team. Daniel Davari leads the way in goal from goaltender from Braunschweig. I had to do a little bit of homework on the team just quickly before coming into this, because a lot of these guys still play in the Iranian league. A couple of big teams that were the big mentions when I looked through the Wikipedia on these guys was teams like Esteghlal, Persepolis, and there's one more, Sefahan. Those are the 3 major teams, although neither of those 3 teams won the Iranian league this year. And I'm just looking for the name if I see it here quickly. Fulad, who Bakhtiar Rahmani plays in the midfield for Fulad and for this Iranian national team. Fulad actually was the winner of the Iranian league this year. So, moving into the defense, Steven Betashore plays for the Vancouver Whitecaps. He is made the Iranian national team. This team qualified through the Asian qualification process. They did beat North Korea on the last day 1-0 to get in. And just looking at the different, the rest of the team here, just I'm not seeing a whole heck of a lot of names that I would recognize, other than Aksan Dejaga from Fulham, who is in the midfield on this team. Otherwise, the majority of the players are not going to be household names. They don't play in Europe. We've got one guy that plays in MLS and maybe about 2 or 3 guys that play in Europe. And then other than that, they all play in the Iranian league. So the odds on Iran to win the whole thing are 750 to 1. I think that's probably a little short. I think they're probably a little bit greater than that. Looking at their schedule, again, June 16th, they open against Nigeria in Curitiba. Their second match on the 21st in Belo Horizonte against Argentina, and then they close out their World Cup against Bosnia in Salvador. Bosnia probably going to need a win in that one to get through. So that will do it for our 4 teams. Again, Ben and I on June 9th, provided that everything goes right with the schedule, will give you a full World Cup breakdown with picking winners, World Cup winners, group winners, the whole shooting match. We'll probably do that then. I will also try to look into doing maybe some kind of fantasy league for everyone. So we'll see if we can do that as well. So let's move on. And let's hit our new segment, which is the MLS preview and scores. Let's start out with the scores from the past week here. And I'm just going to call those up quickly. Starting on Monday, May 12th, we had Houston losing at home to Real Salt Lake 5-2. Philadelphia Union on Thursday the 15th beating Sporting KC 2-1. On Saturday, Toronto with a 2-0 win over the Red Bull. And since SirBob is in the chat, we think we'll go through the score sheet on that one. On Sunday, in a stalwart of a defensive battle, New England Revolution 5-3 over the Philadelphia Union. DC United and Montreal 1-1. DC, if I remember correctly, I did hear some of that game, and DC scoring late in that game to draw Montreal. Houston Dynamo 1-0 over the LA Galaxy. Chivas and FC Dallas with a 1-1 draw. Real Salt Lake 2-1 over Colorado. Seattle Sounders still continuing their winning ways, 1-0 over San Jose Earthquakes. The Timbers and Columbus Crew playing to a 3-3 draw, and closing out this weekend's work, Chicago Fire 2-1 over your MLS champion Sporting Kansas City. So let's go into that Toronto Red Bull matchup really quick, and then we'll preview our 3 teams for the evening. Going into this again, Toronto with a 2-0 win. Jermaine Defoe in the 12th minute with a goal, and Luke Moore in the 90th minute adding a little bit of an exclamation point in this one, and giving them the victory. Just taking a quick scan through here. It looks like SirBob's cousin, I believe that's Bradley Orr, with an assist on one of the goals here in this one. So just wanted to mention that quickly as I scan down to the statistics. Total shots on this one, 11-8 in favor of Toronto, 4-1 on target for Toronto as well. And New York Red Bull, though, holding 60% of the possession to win that particular quote-unquote battle, but not going to get much more than that. The one you got to win is on the scoreboard. So just looking through this really quickly, a name that I hadn't seen in a long time, and I've got to start paying attention to this Red Bull team as I go to see them in September. Bobby Convey, who was once one of the U.S. national team hopefuls, is currently playing for the Red Bull, so that's something that just caught my eye quickly. So let's go into the standings real quick for Major League Soccer in the Eastern Conference. New England Revolution currently leading the way, and everyone's played a different amount of matches, so I'm not going to get into who's played what, but New England leading the way right now with 20 points. They are 5 wins, no losses, and 1 draw in their last 6 matches. Sporting Kansas City on 17 points, and the Houston Dynamo on 17 points as well. DC United in 4th place on 15 points. The Red Bull on 14 points, losers of their last 2. Columbus Crew, winless in their last 6. They are on 13 points, 3 draws, 3 losses. Chicago Fire on 12 points. Toronto in 8th place, but having only played 8 matches so far, where the majority of the league is in double digits. They're on 12 points. The Philadelphia Union on 11 points, and the last place Montreal Impact, 7 points, 10 matches played. Looking at the Western Conference, we have Seattle Sounders leading the way. Only 1 draw and 3 losses in their first 12 matches. They're on 25 points. Real Salt Lake still has not lost a match this season. 6 wins, 5 draws. They're on 23 points. FC Dallas, losers or winless in their last 5. They are on 17 points in 3rd place. Vancouver Whitecaps, 2 wins and 2 draws in their last 4. They're on 16 points and moving up the ladder. Colorado Rapid on 15 points. And then we have a log jam at 6th, 7th, and 8th. All 3 teams are on 10 points. San Jose, Portland, and Chivas. And your last place, LA Galaxy, again having only played 8 matches, they're on 9 points. So the 3 teams we're going to preview tonight. First off, let's kick it off with the Philadelphia Union. I've got myself some notes on them here. As we had mentioned earlier, they lost this week 5-3 to the New England Revolution. They are currently in 9th place out of 10 in the Eastern Conference. They are 1 win, 4 losses, and 1 draw in their last 6, led by the likes of Maurice Edu, who is currently not with the team. He's currently in camp for the U.S. national team. And this is something that I think I want to talk about a little bit with Ben when he gets back and we start to introduce him to MLS a little. Is the fact that these guys are being pulled from their teams. You know, we talked about somebody on the Iranian team that is playing for Vancouver. We've got plenty of guys in the U.S. team that play for MLS. We've got some guys in the Central American teams, like a guy like Alvaro Saborio, who's playing for Costa Rica, who plays at Salt Lake. He's getting pulled out. Some of the Honduran players also getting pulled out as well. Even a couple Mexican players getting pulled out. So, interesting to see how MLS handles this. I've always felt like MLS should go to a European schedule because that's where the FIFA schedule is based on. So I always thought they should do that, and we'll see what happens from here. But again, Maurice Edu, 2 goals, 1 assist so far this season. Sebastian Letou, who's on his second tour of duty with Philadelphia, is their leading goal scorer with 3 goals and 1 assist. They are 2-5-6 overall, 15 goals for, 20 goals against. With 11 points. And they've given up the most goals in the league so far, tied with FC Dallas and Chivas at 20 goals as well. Coming up on their schedule, on the 26th, they'll be playing at the LA Galaxy. And on the 1st of June, they will be facing Chivas in LA as well. So just looking at the roster and looking at where they are so far, don't expect too much out of Philadelphia, moving forward. Just looking at SirBob's comments there, Bobby Convey's playing left back now. That's interesting. Again, I can't wait to see it because he was originally a central midfielder, if I remember correctly, and almost like that Jermaine Jones type of role for the United States. So, going to be good to see what his form is like when I get to go see them in September. So. That'll do it for the Philadelphia Union. Let's head over to the Chicago Fire, who's the second team we're going to preview tonight. Chicago Fire is currently sitting 7th out of 10 in the East. They are 2 wins, 1 loss, and 3 draws in their last 6. They're being led in the goal department by Quincy Amarikwa, who is on 5 goals, 1 assist. They also have Mike McGee, who was a Player of the Year candidate last year for Chicago, 4 goals, 2 assists. And the other interesting one that I saw was Harrison Shipp, who has scored 3 goals and 4 assists. All 3 goals for Harrison coming against the Red Bull a couple of weeks ago, which I did get to see a little bit of that match. I think the final score there was 5-4 in that one. So on the season, they are 2 wins, 6 draws, and 2 losses. 19 goals for, 19 goals against. And again, Chicago, with Mike McGee, if he gets going, I believe Mike McGee right now is also one of those players who's in camp for the United States national team. So, that could certainly hurt them a little bit. But moving forward, their next couple of matches, they play on the 25th at Columbus, and then on the 1st, they'll be at home against the LA Galaxy. So, going to be interesting to see how these MLS teams moving forward handle losing one of their better players to the World Cup. So, final team that I want to talk about, Houston Dynamo. Houston Dynamo is actually on a little bit of a run lately. They're winners of 4 of their last 5, and on their most recent form, they're 3 wins, 2 losses, and 1 draw. Currently 3rd in the Eastern Conference out of 10 teams. Led in the goal department by Will Bruin, who was a top pick last year for them in the MLS Super Draft. He's got 6 goals, 1 assist. Also, former U.S. international Ricardo Clark, 2 goals, 1 assist, and Brad Davis, who is also one of those players who's in the U.S. camp at the moment. He is on 1 goal and 5 assists. So really the setup man for them. On the season, Houston Dynamo is 5 wins, 2 draws, 5 losses, 16 goals for, 19 goals against. And again, this is another one of those teams to see how well they handle losing their better players to the World Cup to see if they can survive that. And also depends on how far their players go. Will Bruin is a Canuck. I thought he played at Indiana. I did some homework on him a couple of weeks ago, and I should have gone back and reviewed his stats. I can't remember exactly where he played his college ball, but he did play in college in the United States, and I believe he was drafted second overall in that MLS Super Draft. So getting back to Huston on the 22nd will be at DC United, and then on the 26th they will be at San Jose, going all the way across. Will Bruin plays for Canada, I'm being told by SirBob. Will Bruin, according to WhoScored.com, giving me the Houston Dynamo squad, Will Bruin's listed as an American. So we're going to have to do a little homework. I think we'll have to do a little Wikipedia action on him right now as I'm chit-chatting here. So let's see what his Wikipedia page says. Let's see. He's an American soccer player currently playing as a forward for Houston Dynamo. Born on October 24th, 1989 in St. Louis, Missouri. His salary is $90,000. He played at DeSmet Jesuit High School. And let's just click into his Wikipedia page here quickly. That's on the surface. I just want to see where he played his college ball. Let's see here. Youth in college. Oh, he played at Akron. I'm sorry. No, he didn't play at Akron. He did play at Indiana University. And he finished in second place behind Akron's Darlington Nagbe for the 2010 Herman Trophy, which is your most valuable college player. And I believe he was drafted second overall. I'm sorry, he was drafted by the Houston Dynamo with the 11th pick overall in the 2011 Super Draft. Made his debut in 2011 against the Philadelphia Union, which was a 1-0 loss. Scored his first goal against the Vancouver Whitecaps to seal a 3-1 victory. That's back in 2011 as well. So that's according to his Wikipedia page that he is an American. Obviously, we'll have to pull a President Obama on him and ask him for his birth certificate, I guess. So that is our Major League Soccer rundown. Next week, I think I have them listed. Next week, we're going to preview Portland, Colorado, and Columbus. So we're going to go do a little bit out west and then close it out with the Midwest and Columbus. And we will get that in. Again, we're going to probably be a little heavier next week, just basing it on closing out our year in review for the European leagues. We still have all of our World Cup preview stuff to do for Group G. Of course, we're going to have to come up with a SirBob ManCity corner. Just because the league is over doesn't mean we can't keep talking about them. And obviously, we're going to end up covering those last three teams. So let's hit the SirBob ManCity corner and then close it out and wrap it up here. And I'm going to start out by saying that I'm not covering their last game. I'm not covering the fact that they won the league. I'm going to do that next week. I'm going to leave that with Ben because I'm sure I want to give Ben something to talk about. So what I want to talk about is their challenge to UEFA's financial fair play. As we know, they were given a punishment by FIFA. I'm just looking. They were punished pretty heavily along with PSG. I'm just trying to look through here quickly. I know one of the things that they suffered is they're going to have a reduction on roster for the Champions League from 25 to 21 players. I'm just looking through what their overall punishment was financially. I do know that PSG was kind of capped in terms of the amount of money they could spend on a player. They could only buy one player at $60 million or less. That was part of their repercussions for financial fair play. And I'm just scanning through here quickly, and I don't see what the financial penalty was. It says here that they actually, it looks like they suffered an $83.6 million fine payable over 3 years, a Champions League roster reduction from 25 to 21 players, and a salary cap tying the roster's wages to their current levels. So they can't actually pay players more money than what they're already paying out at the moment, according to this article from Pro Soccer Talk on NBC Sports. I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it in the chat here for SirBob to see. So this way he knows what I'm talking about. So this is interesting to me. To me personally, I think the 25 to 21 player roster reduction is kind of meh. To me, it's not a big deal. These guys normally don't go into a match without figuring on 17 players. They'll probably have to name 21 players overall for the Champions League, but they're probably not going to go to battle. They probably wouldn't drive to Barcelona or fly to Barcelona without with at the most 17 on the plane. So I don't see it as an enormous crippling effect here. The $83.6 million as a fine, now that's interesting. That's something that's a little heavy. You're looking at about $30 million, roughly $27 million a year that they have to pay FIFA. But I think the big kicker here is the salary cap that ties their roster wages to their current levels. That is something that I think that's probably the most damaging. It doesn't allow ManCity to go out and buy a player. Let's say ManCity wanted to go out and buy Lionel Messi, which is not going to happen. But let's say they wanted to go and do it, and they wanted to throw 160 million euro at Barcelona to go get Lionel Messi. The fact that they can't do that is going to be an issue. And we've all talked about the ability for ManCity to defend, especially, it seemed like they just outscored you at home. But on the road this year, they seem to have a little bit of trouble defending. And I think, the priority number one for ManCity is to go out and get a solid defender to help out Vincent Kompany on that back line. And a ruling like this, the salary cap type ruling, is really something that really, in my opinion, affects this, because it doesn't allow them to go out and spend a little extra money. Let's say PSG wanted to sell Thiago Silva. It doesn't allow, or Juventus wanted to sell Giorgio Chiellini. It doesn't allow Man City to go out and get a player of that caliber, and that to me is going to be it's a restricting factor. That's probably the biggest thing. The $30 million a year, and to be honest with you, Man City probably has that. And now going with New York City Football Club, if they make $30 million off of that team, I mean, there you go. That's their, that's where they'll get it from. So the money is not a big deal to me. I think in terms of the value in relation to the value of the squad and the value of the roster and what the team makes year in and year out. I think they can cover the tab. The Champions League roster spot, again, only becomes a big deal if you get 3 or 4 guys that are injured and you want to have that roster expanded to the point where you can cover them safely. It doesn't leave you much of a safety net, I think. So, I think that's probably, of the 3 things that are here, I think that's probably second place. But I think the salary cap is really the big deal. But it seems like that they're going to fight this. And I guess part of this is, their rule that they spent too much money, but it was the way the teams, it's the way the money was calculated. According to ManCity, they lost 153 million pounds over 2 seasons. And they weren't able to write off the value of the contracts before 2010 and add them into the rules. But according to UEFA believes that Man City, they have a $350 million pound 10-year deal with Abu Dhabi's Etihad airline, and because of that doesn't go into the mix. Okay. SirBob was just rewinding our segments here a little bit. SirBob was thinking of Will Johnson, not Will Bruin. And Will Johnson plays on Portland. Well, SirBob, we're going to talk about Portland next week, so I'll make sure we bring up Will Johnson in that show. So, getting back to the financial fair play, it looks to me, according to this article, that Man City will be fighting the penalties and fines because they feel that there's a discrepancy in how this money is calculated, where Man City's saying that they've suffered a $153 million loss, and UEFA's telling you, no, you're not counting that $350 million deal with the Etihad. That needs to be factored in because it's a licensing deal and so on and so forth. So let's see here. I'm just reading through the article quickly. In light of such agreements, UEFA is ready to hand down its punishment, one that is complicated by Champions League homegrown player rule. The competition sets aside 8 spots on each roster for homegrown players. If City's limit is reduced to 21, only 13 players brought in from outside the club can be registered. So that's really where the limitation is. For these kids that have come up through City's system, though there's 8 spots for that. After that, it's only 13 players. So, I don't think Aguero came through their system. I'm pretty sure Yaya Toure didn't come through the ManCity system, although I could be wrong. David Silva definitely did not come through the ManCity system. These are all guys that would be on that 13-player list, and then you're really limited to just the 13 players that you've signed, your top 13 internationals, and then 8 players who came through the homegrown system. And that would really be, again, that would be quite the bit of a hindrance. I guess I should move that one up on the list a little bit. And I'm going to read the rest of the article. The Guardian goes into much more detail, including a paragraph on how New York City FC and the city's A-League team have become involved. We'll get into that in our next post. Now, City is at least considering challenging the sanction. If the adjudicatory chamber doesn't provide recourse, the club could take this to the Court of Arbitration for Sport. So it looks like ManCity is going to be into a little bit of a fight on this one moving forward, and it's going to be interesting to watch over the summer transfer window what happens in this particular fine and this particular issue, to see how ManCity moves forward to combat this, to see if they can get some of this listed, whether it be the player roster reduction or the salary cap reduction or even the fine, just getting any of that changed so that they can they'll be on better foothold to compete. Otherwise, they're going to have one heck of a time competing next year in both the Premier League and in the Champions League as well. So other than that, that is going to do it for us tonight. So I'm going to hit the exit music here quickly. And I want to start out by saying, SirBob, thanks again for joining me. I'm sure Hotshot was listening on the road, as he usually does. So next week, it is Memorial Day in the United States, and we will be having a show. I don't have a start time yet. Ben and I are going to work that out. Especially if it's really nice weather, it'll probably be later than earlier. If it's lousy weather, we may do a Monday afternoon and just really do like a 3-hour show. Probably going to be a big one anyway, just based on everything we have. Next week's show, we are going to preview Portland, Colorado, and Columbus in our MLS section. We're going to recap the Champions League final from Saturday. We're going to go into Group G and cover Germany, USA, Portugal, and Ghana. We are going to do a year-end on each league in Europe. And if we can squeeze it in, we're going to start looking at the 3 teams that have been relegated and the 3 teams that will be promoted in each league, and kind of get a feel for what's coming up. Also, as any transfer rumors come up, we will certainly bring them up and chit-chat about them as well. So, again, SirBob, thank you for joining me tonight in the chat and giving me the facts that you always give me. I really do appreciate that all the time. Troy, if you are driving and listening, thanks for listening, buddy. We really appreciate that. Ben will be back next week, and hopefully I won't bore you nearly as much. So, again, this was episode 28 of Low Limit Football. Thank you again for joining me, and we will see you on Memorial Day. Good night.